ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Innovator Thursday. It is my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker for the day, General Michael Minihan, the Commander of Air Mobility Command, a University of Auburn alum, War Eagle. And thank you very much, General.
Hey, the most important thing he said was War Eagle, but I appreciate that. Get it out of your system if you got something against it. Let's hear it. The sound of young minds shutting. All right, the sound of young minds shutting down. That's what I just heard coming back at me. All right, hey, Robert, I need to give you a coin here. I realize I'm high maintenance, but all the work you did getting me up on stage, I appreciate it, man, brother.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, man. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, here we go. Good morning, happy Thursday. I realize that, it was a big night last night. There's a lot of Irish flu in the room. That's good. Thank you for making it here. Advil is very happy with you. We're on the eve of Good Friday, which is pretty cool. We're on the eve of a change from March to April, which means this horrific thing on my upper lip is going to go away. It's affecting my marriage and not in a good way. Not in a good way. So extremely grateful to be here. I got to get this out up front. How many people were here last year? Hands? All right. I gave a talk last year, kind of a month or two into some turbulence from my order, and it was this venue here that made me feel welcome and gave me some courage when I needed it, which was really cool. So I owe you a thank you for what you did for me during that time, but what you do for each and every day. So thank you very much for that. All right, give me a slide. You guys have seen this before. That's the standard Minihan bingo. I'm going to be frothy. This is the splash zone up front. I'm going to kill this stage back and forth. I'm going to do my best to keep the F-bombs on the inside. I'm going to say amazing a gazillion times. I don't have many more adjectives other than that. Let's go. We're going to bring the passion. I'll get emotional when I talk about things I love. I get yelly occasionally, so you'll just have to deal with it. I promise it won't be perfect. I do promise it will be from the heart slide. And then because we're in March Madness, I've added some few. I've added my bracket because I've discovered that Mike Minihan, with about 5.5 months left in his career, 5.5 months left in his command, has a few things that need to be accounted for that the bingo just doesn't have room for. First one is, I am a crybaby. Crybaby, crybaby. You want to hear Minihan cry? Wait till this Mitchell Institute podcast comes out today or tomorrow. Okay, I get to the end talking about things I love and I lose it. I'm going to do my best not to do that, but I really don't try to restrain it anymore. Nesting. I am nesting right now. I'm trying to make sure that if you call it wisdom, I don't know what it is, at least experiences, a strong instinct to make sure you all are better than me in every regard, and I'm certain you already are. But I have this desire to transmit nuggets more so than ever. And then the last one is, I have zero concept of time when I'm on stage, and I realize there's a clock right here that you guys can't see. So whoever's in charge of time, good luck. Stacy Hawkins might have a 3-minute session up on stage here. I see him back there. I gave one a few weeks ago where I said, hey, I'll leave about 30 minutes at the end, and it was like, sir, we're 30 minutes over. So I'll do my best on that. But let's go to the next slide real quick. Hey, how many here? We already got, let's do applause this time. Let's just hear it via applause. How many were here last year? Clap your hands. This venue is incredible. This association is incredible. And it's really cool. If you're Air Force, clap your hands. Army. All right. Kind of a hand clap. All right, I'll take it. Navy. Good. Marines. Guardian? Any Guardian? I need a token Guardian. Okay, I need somebody that watched Star Trek to clap their hands to represent the Guardians. All right, good to go there. Okay, if you're active duty, clap your hands. Guard. Reservists. Occupying up here. Awesome. How about DoD civilian? Contractor industry. All right, all good. Okay, we're warmed up. This is all good. Okay, if you participated in an OAR, clap your hands. All right, now, let's do something cool. So I need to take a vote on this. We can go to the rest of the speech or we can do something cool. All those in favor of doing something cool, say aye. Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. We're not even giving the opposite a chance here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the narrator and something special is going to happen. Go ahead.
Please come up and take center stage.
How you guys doing?
Ladies and
gentlemen. You know what's about to happen? You have no idea what's about to happen, do you? Okay, are you scared a little bit? A little bit? All right, well, let's see what happens. Why don't you, if you don't mind, step on this piece of tape right there. And then why don't you grab this one right here, and I'll grab this one right here. If you will all please stand at attention. Publish the order.
Attention to order. I hereby award you for your distinctive heroism and extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight on 29 August 2021 in and over Kabul, Afghanistan, in support of Operation Allies Refuge. Your conduct during the largest non-combatant evacuation in Air Force history while exposed to hostile enemy actions demonstrated the highest caliber of bravery and tenacity and was in line with the most sacred traditions of valorous mobility airmen. Signed, General Michael A. Minihan, Commander, Air Mobility Command.
Congratulations, brother. I'm proud of you. Okay, this is the Air Medal with Valor. Congratulations, brother. Proud of you, man. And the other one's an Air Medal with combat device. One more round of applause. Proud of you. Love you, brother. Love you, man. Love you. All right. We'll talk about it again. Thank you. Thank you. Stay standing. There's more. Narrator.
Tech Sergeant Joshua Kramer and Tech Sergeant Tara Repose, would you please come up and take center stage?
Okay, I'm assuming you guys know what's going on by now. Awesome. All right, you got that tape right there. All right, publish the order.
Attention to order. Technical Sergeant Joshua W. Kramer and Technical Sergeant Tara M. Repose distinguished themselves by heroism while participating in aerial flight while engaged in military operations involving conflict against an opposing foreign force as Phoenix Ravens, C-17A, 816th Expeditionary Airlift Squadron, 385th Air Expeditionary Group, Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, at Hamid Karzai International Airport on 30 August 2021. On that date, Sergeant Kramer and Sergeant Repose were Phoenix Ravens on one of the 5 aircraft that departed Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, on the final flight into Afghanistan to land at Hamid Karzai International Airport. Upon arrival into the airspace surrounding Hamid Karzai International Airport, they observed air defense artillery, flares, and heavy machine gun fire on the approach, with further reports placing rooftop snipers in the area. These threats, along with deteriorating weather conditions and high terrain, required their crew to maximize the capabilities of their aircraft to tactically ingress the unsecured airfield. Each crew precisely landed their aircraft and conducted a set of pre-briefed ground maneuvers. In just under 60 minutes, Sergeant Kramer and Sergeant Repose secured the area and loaded the remaining U.S. personnel and their highly sensitive equipment. Assuming risk for departure with no controllers in a compromised airfield, their aircraft was one of the last 5 aircraft to depart Hamid Karzai International Airport. The leadership, courage, and decisiveness of Sergeants Kramer and Repose directly ensured the culmination of Allies Refuge, an operation that ultimately airlifted 124,000 individuals. The professional competence, aerial skill, and devotion to duty displayed by Sergeants Kramer and Repose reflects great credit upon themselves and the United States Air Force.
That's a Distinguished Flying Cross with C device. Congratulations, brother. Proud of you. That's a Distinguished Flying Cross with C device. Proud of you. You guys want to get off stage or hang out with me? I'll see you in a bit. I'm proud of you guys. All right, please have a seat. All right, so in case you missed it, 2 crew chiefs just earned the Air Medal, one with Valor, one with C device, and 2 cops just earned a Distinguished Flying Cross. Pretty damn cool. And the point is that it takes all of us to do the mission. This is about a fly, fix, support team. And for medic, you do all 3. You don't fix airplanes, you fix old people like me. And that your value to the mission isn't proportional to your proximity to the cockpit. And the song says, off we go into the wild blue yonder. It doesn't say off the pilots go. It doesn't say off the air crew go. It says off we go. And we certainly understand that it takes all of us to get it done. And so in front of everybody here, I apologize that it took 2 years to get to this point where we can award magnificence in the greatest traditions of all that is sacred to our Air Force, to our joint team, and certainly to this nation. Too long to get to that, and I own that. But we can never give up on recognizing the awesome that surrounds us. All right, slide. Recap of last year. AMC is the Joint Force Maneuver. Too much water, too much distance for anybody else to do it like we do it. I'm not saying that there's a hierarchy here. I'm just telling you there's a magnificence about the speed at which we can get after it. Don't believe me? Look at the Afghanistan retrograde. Don't believe me? Look at the Kabul evacuation. Don't believe me? Look at the support for Ukraine. Don't believe me? Look at what happened with Israel last October. And certainly continues with the Gaza airdrops, and we'll get to that a little bit later. We talked about will to win, and we're going to fly till we're dead or our planes don't work. Think about that. I'll highlight this a little bit later. The magnitude of the challenge that faces us hasn't been seen in generations. And the Secretary and the NDS have been extremely clear about our critical role. We can do big things quick. We just have to decide to. Varsity teams decide to handle the tyranny of the urgent and do the push-ups required for what may come. Of course, I wish I had more time, more airmen without distraction. I've never been in a unit that had enough time, enough airmen, and enough money. And so you can use those as excuses, or you can decide to get after it. We talked about problem statements last time. We're not ready to fight and win inside the first island chain, but will be, because this is pre-Mobility Guardian. We also talked about the joint force isn't ready, integrated, or agile as it thinks it is. And after the execution of Mobility Guardian, I can say we are ready to fight inside the first island chain. And I can say that we are more ready, more integrated, more agile. And I steal this quote from Admiral Paparo all the time, and I modify it a little bit. He says, I'll never admit to being ready enough, and I agree with that. And add to, I'll never admit to being ready enough, integrated enough, or agile enough. There is no finish line on this preparation. Mobility Manifesto. Airmen are the magic. Lethality matters most. We are the joint force maneuver, and that we must invest our American tenacity and win now. And then we talk about lethality and maneuver. We'll get that in a little bit. But the underlying readiness that we're trying to generate fuels both deterrence and decisive victory. Of course, we want to win without fighting. We want them to look at us each and every day, wake up and say, I don't want to take that on. Too big, too powerful, too agile. When they look at what we pulled off for Ukraine, Israel, Afghanistan, that they say, I don't want a piece of that. But if they decide that they want it, then it'll be the worst decision they've ever made. And not one they got to learn over time, but one they got to feel instantly. Decisive victory. Not stalemate to victory. Not questionable victory. Decisive victory. And I think we laughed here last time and we talked about a personal and professional challenge to be ready. Slide. So that's going into Mobility Guardian. And in July of last year, we put about 3,000 airmen, about 70 airplanes. We integrated with partners and allies in the entire joint force. And we executed an exercise that was never intended to be perfect. It was intended to highlight things that we needed to work on and stress us to the point of failure. Explode into theater, establish hubs and spokes, operate at the tempo required to win. Not an exercise where you pack up 2 weeks prior, show up a week early, get your time zone adjusted, figure out where they're making frappa lattes on base, build your talk, your AOC, whatever it is. Take the time, politely have tea with whoever you're going to be working with. No! Deploy, instantly employ, and explode, truly explode into theater. And we learned a lot about ourselves, especially in front of this team. We learned that command relationships matter. We learned that C2 is an issue and often the first casualty of conflict. And then we learned our fundamentals need to be refined. That we need to go back and make sure that we can truly do the things that we say that we're going to do. That the paperwork's tight, the JOP's loaded, the flight plans, the load plans, the HASDECs, the diplomatic clearances, the country clearances, the ag clearances. All those things kicked our butt, and we learned a lot about ourselves. Command relationships, C2, and fundamentals, which we're calling the explode into theater. As we walk across the bottom here, We transition to, so what are you going to do about it? Are we going to be a team that has lessons observed, or are we going to be a team that has lessons learned? Are we going to be a team that comes out of Mobility Guardian in July, August, and by October we're in a full fight again and just says, sorry, we're too busy? Secretary of Defense, Mr. President, Secretary of the Air Force, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, other joint partners and allies, we're too busy. Or are we going to have the discipline to get after it? Are we going to cultivate a will to win? Are we going to knock down those lessons learned in a deliberate manner and handle the tyranny of the urgent with precision? Now, I've updated my reading list here. I got some good questions last year about the reading list. Nobody asked me about the Jessica Simpson bio that I read. So I don't know if people are actually aiming their cameras at this stuff right now. It sounded cool to the old dude that we would do this. There's a great book on there called The Captain Commander by a Captain Hochhalter, who I had a chance to talk to a couple of weeks ago. And it is absolutely in the zone. I'm going to tell you right now, it's edgy. It will offend some people. But when it talks about the grit and what I'm expecting out of my officer corps, my NCO corps, my civilian corps, it's exactly the leadership that we all need to move us forward. And there's some other good reads in there too. I already highlighted the Mobility Manifesto. Airmen are the magic. Lethality matters most. This is the Air Force. We get paid to impose our will. And whether we're trigger pullers or not, we all have a role in that. We are the Joint Force Maneuver. Invest our tenacity now. Coming out of Mobility Guardian, it's beyond the manifesto. Irreversible momentum. Be ready now. Shape the environment. And grow stronger. We have got to grow stronger throughout this. We got to take the punch and get back up stronger. Survive first contact, second contact, and grow stronger. It's a mandatory. Who's watching Masters of the Air? Yeah. That! Like that! Can we be the team that can demonstrate that courage, that tenacity, that bravery, that stamina? Can we be the squadrons that had half of their planes not come home, sit at the chow hall with unfilled benches, sleep in the tent with unfilled bunks, and show up at guard mount roll call, mission brief tomorrow morning, turn props, light the fire on a jet, aim the pointy end to the scary place, and execute. We look back at this old Air Force Manual 3515 signed in 1948 by Hoyt Vandenberg. And it's got some old-timey language in it, as you would expect. On the left there. Very familiar to us, though. They would say humanness. Modern language would be more like empathy, vulnerability. genuineness. And if you're looking at that, you're thinking those are legit. And then you look on the right side here, and I'm going to absolutely highlight the Brene Brown aspect of this and Dee Dee Halfhill. Look how many times that regulations uses the word love, feeling, belonging, and fear. We don't see those in modern AFIs and guidance. Somebody is going to go, that's too touchy-feely. That's too huggy. Some might even say that's too Air Force. Till you do the math on who signed it, you combine that with what you're watching on Masters of the Air, what I grew up listening to my grandfather telling me. That's the crowd that took two enemies to their knees with air power. That's the crowd that knew what it meant to lead in combat when it's going horrifically bad. They knew exactly what it took for a generation to commit themselves fully to the ideals of this nation. And those are the words they used so that their crews could generate the courage, the bravery, the tenacity to get after the mission that had to be done. And I'd argue that it's the same thing that will guide us should a future fight come. Slide. Coach Pat Dye. Nimitz, who played high school ball in any fashion. Best coaches, firm, fair, come from a position of love, an insatiable appetite to win. And you didn't always like them. On burpee day, at the end of practice when it was time to do 100-yard sprints, 10 if you get it done without anybody jumping off sides. And if someone jumped, what'd you do? Start over. I'm too slow to jump. Into basketball, practice, everyone's got to sink 10 free throws in a row before anybody can go home. Firm, fair, from a position of love, and want to win. It's okay to have high standards. Officers, non-commissioned or commissioned, it's okay to hold people accountable. It's okay to give an order. It's okay to get angry, as long as it's on purpose. You can read into that as much as you want. It's okay to do it over. It's okay to work long hours. It's okay to come in on the weekend. It's okay to get your unit ready to fight. It's okay to have your unit have that readiness that generates both deterrence and decisive victory. It's okay to lead aggressively. It's okay to change things. It's okay to disagree respectfully, timely. All those things come with the invest your American tenacity now and win. Slide. Out of the Beyond the Manifesto, we have been an afterthought. We, logistics and mobility, are an afterthought. You make it look like magic, but this crowd knows it's anything but. anything but. Separated from combat and regulated to business speak. That time is over. If we keep that first paragraph true, we're going to lose. Lean into this. We have to lean into this. We cannot be an afterthought. We're not looking for credit or spotlight here. We're looking for the integration needed to win. This speaks right down the middle of readiness, integration, and agility. Slide. The placement of forces to achieve a position of advantage in conflict. That's a maneuver. The process, resources, and systems involved in generating and sustaining maneuver. That's us. That is us. It doesn't say the placement of forces when it's easy. It doesn't say the places of forces when you had a heads up. It doesn't say the placement of forces when you had 6 months to get it there in uncontested lines of communication. It doesn't say the placement of forces with all the proper WRM. It doesn't say the placement of forces when the weather's good. This is about imposing our will. That anything that challenges the placement of forces is knocked down. We impose our will on the weather. We impose our will on the terrain. We impose our will on the lines of communication, regardless of their permissivity. We have got to get to this point. And what does imposing our will look like? Slide. That's what it looks like. High tempo, agility, boldness, surprise, initiative, concentration of mass, overwhelming firepower, rapid enemy attrition. Lethality matters most. We are here to put a joint and coalition team in a position of advantage so they can be lethal. And hopefully the challenge sees us and is deterred from taking action, but that they don't. It's the decisive victory that follows. Flexibility, sustained position of advantage, tactical and operational mobility. That's the impose the will part that matters and where we need to drive. Slide. Talked about Masters of the Air. That's a picture of my grandmother's cousin, John Perkins, in a B-17 named Windy City Challenger. And I used to say he's dying in this picture, coming off a target outside of Paris, but he's probably already dead because the ME-109 did a head-on strafe and killed everybody in the front. 4 people jumped out. Invest our American tenacity. Impose our will. Generate courage. Aim the pointy end of the scary place and execute. Regardless of how scared you are, how tired you are, how much sleep you got, how much food, how long you've been there. And yet we see reflections of this in what we're doing now, and you saw it on stage. 2 cops, 2 crew chiefs on a crew. Fly fix support. And I get challenged all the time, what keeps you up? Being worthy of that keeps me up. Their professionalism, their sacrifice, their passion, their courage, their loved ones at home wondering if they're going to be okay. That keeps me up. Am I worthy? of that. Each of us here is given the gift of America's sons and daughters. And America's treasure too. Are we worthy? And that's a question I ask myself every day. The reflections we see, slide, are in this video. Go ahead.
Food, desperately needed, airdropped over northern Gaza by the U.S. Air Force. Before takeoff, the crew loaded their U.S. military C-130 cargo plane with nearly 2 tons of aid, ready to eat chicken and rice meals, wheat, dates, and powdered milk. Shortly after, we roared into the air. Our 1-hour journey from Jordan took us west over Israel to northern Gaza. As the aft doors opened, we banked hard over the Mediterranean with the horizon almost on its side, descending to just 3,000 feet. Gaza's coastline first appeared, then the outlines of the destruction of Gaza City, once the strip's biggest, just before the drop.
These meals are now being brought into the active war zone that is the Gaza Strip. It is suffering, but it is hardly enough.
Aid agencies estimate about 300,000 people are still living in the war-ravaged wasteland of northern Gaza, with hundreds of thousands more on the brink of famine.
Everybody's debating whether it's worth it. Fractional impact compared to the amount of misery there. Yet, we've got a flies fix support team that's not lured down that path. Whether you're a port dog or a rigger or an inspector or a maintainer, on the crew, not associated with. They got more people showing up to build those bundles that are qualified to do it because they want to help. And while everybody debates the politics and the BS on this, we're just going to execute. And while there might be millions that are starving, there's hundreds of thousands that are affected in a positive way each and every day. And there are Americans on that jet exposing themselves to hostile fire and danger and just getting after it professionally. And you can Google the news now and hear their quotes. We're just going to do our job as best we can to make a positive impact on the most people that we can. And while everybody else is distracted by stuff that doesn't matter, this team's just going to execute. That's the type of people we work with. That's the type of people you are. Compartmentalize. Focus on the righteous mission, the task. Take care of each other. And get after it. Slide. This is my nesting phase here if you're playing the March bracket. Nobody's going to care about what our plans are for the future if we lose tomorrow. This is a now thing. This is a now thing. The department's been clear and we've been screaming it for years. What are you doing personally and professionally to get ready for that pace and challenge? Are you PTing more? Are you training harder? Are you looking at the problem differently? Are you sitting down with your airmen, your soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and laying down re-optimization? Laying down my orders from last year, Are you walking them through what it means to accelerate and change? Are you walking them through what it means to take more risk? Slide. Amateur studies tactics, professionals study logistics, and victors study maneuver. I am not interested in pontificating about Napoleon and Russian buffoonery. If you want to make the comment and move on to action, I'm perfectly happy. This is about action. What are we doing to ensure our maneuver? You want to know what lack of maneuver looks like? What does it look like? Eastern Ukraine, which looks like Verdun. 100 years later. Victors study maneuver. Slide. One more coming. Most important line in the oath of office. And I realize that NCOs have a slightly different oath. It's the accumulation of every line before it. And it's the line closest to God. That I will and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. Officers, commanders, supervisors, well and faithfully, despite what they're saying about me on Airman NCO page. Despite that it might make me a little unpopular. Despite the fact that it is hard to uphold standards. Despite the fact that it may intrude on some personal priorities. Despite the fact that there's some political chit-chat about it that makes it uncomfortable. Despite the fact that you have no time, no money, not enough airmen. Can you well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you're about to enter? Can you will things into existence? Can you wither the internal resistance? And can you weather the personal and professional attacks? This is a varsity sport, a varsity full contact sport. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's the most important thing. Last slide and the one I ended on last year. Don't suck! Didn't have the picture last year. I'm following up. See, I remember. That was written on a board in my squadron, 2 commanders before I took it over, and I didn't change it. I'm not saying this only applies to you. I look in the mirror and do this one on me each and every day. Don't suck. Too much riding on this. It's just America's peace, prosperity, and prestige. It's just the way our kids grow up, our grandkids grow up. That's all. It's our turn. One thing I never doubt, ever once, is this team's ability to get it done. We saw that on stage at the beginning. Passion, professionalism, dedication. You could read the words that they wrote in their little pre-questionnaire before they came. They talk about, this is why I joined the Air Force. People didn't think we could do it, but we showed them wrong. That's the kind of people we work with. So that valorous thing that you're watching on TV, Masters of the Air, the picture of my grandmother's cousin dying there, that's alive and well today. And I never doubt our victory. But our job is to make it over the top. And we got work to do. And there's no doubt in my mind it will be done. So God bless you all. I'm going to run as hard as I can for the next 5.5 months. And then I'm going to transition from a cheerleader in uniform to a cheerleader bitching about commissary parking spots. Maybe pharmacy wait lines too. And the only regret that I have is that if this thing goes down, that somehow I'll be left behind. So I love you all. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.